Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
The Comey memos are out. I'm in Adoba with President Trump's claims that the newly released documents prove there was no collusion with Russia.
I'm Adair Spab, and coming up, I'll take you to the federal courthouse in Butte, where 25 people now get to call Montana and the U.S. their new home.
6:30, thanks for joining us, and we'll have those stories in a moment. Meantime, top national story this morning. There are new details about the memos former FBI Director James Comey wrote to document his meeting with President Trump last year.
Adoba has more on the 15 pages of the documents released to Congress overnight.
CBS News has obtained a redacted version of the memos ousted FBI Director James Comey penned, detailing a series of conversations he had with President Trump during roughly the first 4 months of his administration. Among the interactions Comey chose to put in writing, one focused on the so-called Steele dossier, about allegations involving Mr. Trump and prostitutes in Moscow.
The quote-unquote Steele memo, this was the infamous memo that talked about so-called golden showers in Russia, came up over and over again in his meetings with Trump mentioning through multiple occasions that he was concerned his wife might think it was true.
In all, there are 7 memos. They helped lead to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller. In the documents, Comey said the president asked for his loyalty and alluded to jailing journalists to help find leakers. President Trump signed off on the release of Comey's notes and late last night tweeted, "Memos just out and show clearly that there was no collusion and no obstruction." Also, he leaked classified information. Wow, will the witch hunt continue?
He's tweeted at me probably 50 times. I've been gone for a year. I'm like a breakup he can't get over. He wakes up in the morning.
Comey has been on a media blitz this week promoting his new book, which focuses primarily on his interactions with President Trump. Adoba, CBS News.
Now, President Trump has disputed some of what is in the memos, including a section where Mueller says the president asked him to shut down the investigation into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn.
Meantime, 6:32 here on this Friday. Meteorologist Matt Elwell joins us as we get ready to head into the weekend. Beautiful as the sun's getting ready to come up over the Gallatin Valley. It's lovely out there.
It is, and I think the next couple of days, right along those same lines, I think we may have some wind to deal with tomorrow. But the temperatures are going to be fantastic.
Awesome.
So let's enjoy it. Temperatures into the 30s and 20s early on in the day. Not many clouds in our skies for the afternoon today. We should top out into the mid to upper 50s for the afternoon. Tomorrow likely to be into the 60s. We do have some changes on the way. Could include a little rain, a little snow, and maybe a bit of a cool down. We'll talk more about that, of course, coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. 6:33 now on this Friday. Meteorologists at the Northern Rockies Coordination Center are focusing on the upcoming wildfire season. Last season was near record-breaking, and the latest data shows we may see more of the same. MTN's Russ Thomas has more.
With cool and wet conditions throughout the winter and early spring, the Northern Rockies fire season is not a top-of-mind talking point. But as last year showed, fire season can come fast and furious. The long-term projection doesn't paint a pretty picture, but we are at a good starting point.
We do have our best snowpacks in the mountains since 1997. All that moisture is going to help keep our fire potential at average levels through May and June.
In fact, the sheer volume of snow in the higher elevations will likely delay the start of fire season, even if we do see a flash drought like we experienced in early July last year. The real guesswork begins with what happens after that.
We would expect at least above average fire potential to return the latter half of July, which would be a couple of weeks later than last year.
The cause of this is a transition from La Nina into what is called isoclimatic conditions, the same transition experienced in 2017. This would bring a better chance of warm and dry weather. Even if this scenario does play out, there is an X factor that could stave off another harsh year.
2013 was our second warmest summer in this area, and yet we had a relatively slow season just because we didn't have as much lightning.
It only takes a few summer lightning storms to wreak havoc. Avoiding those storms would be a huge benefit. Beyond the likelihood of a hot and dry early summer, long-range forecast models are projecting a shift from last summer.
This year it looks like we would keep those dry conditions longer through September and possibly even into October.
An abrupt and early into last year's smoky summer appears less likely in 2018. Ultimately, a later start to the season may not mean a shorter season. In Missoula, Russ Thomas, MTN News.
Russ tells us the meteorologists provide an update fire season outlook every month through June, more frequently as the season progresses.
And a stolen vehicle pursuit ended Thursday with a suspect being arrested after fleeing law enforcement from Belgrade to Big Sky. Gallatin County Sheriff's Office said in a news release that it received a report of a white stolen Honda Accord from Belgrade. This is about 7 a.m. on Thursday. Belgrade officers went to the address to the report and located another vehicle had been reported stolen in Billings. Now, about the same time, Montana Highway Patrol trooper witnessed that Honda Accord exit Jackrabbit Lane heading eastbound on I-90. The trooper began to follow the vehicle and it sped up. The pursuit was off for some time in high speeds. It ended when the suspect tried to ram a Montana Highway trooper's car. Now, the suspect is being held at the Gallatin County Detention Center, should be making their initial appearance this morning.
In other headlines, 25 people from all over the world became U.S. citizens yesterday in Montana. MTN's Medeiros Babb tells us the story of one family who can now officially call Montana home.
Finally, I won't feel like the foreigner anymore.
Fanny Astric Diaz is originally from France, but after today, she will be a U.S. citizen. She says the journey to America hasn't always been easy.
You have to start from scratch again, socially, professionally, it's different social codes. So it's the accomplishment of such an adventure.
Astric Diaz, along with 24 other people from around the world, were a part of the naturalization ceremony. They all joined in the Pledge of Allegiance and took the U.S. oath before being awarded citizenship. Once they receive their certificate of U.S. citizenship, they are asked to step over to this map where they will place a tack on the country that they came from. Astric Diaz was not alone in the courtroom. Her husband, who teaches chemistry at the University of Montana, was only 3 seats down. He too is becoming an American.
It's not an individual story, but it's a family story, yeah, for sure. And I'm very proud of my family.
The Diazes say they are becoming citizens for their 2 sons.
Now we feel a part of the place we're at, and we feel really like we're at home. We can be part of the community more and contribute more to this country.
As the ceremony ends, an adventure for 25 new Americans begins. In Butte, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
By the way, the people who took part in the citizenship ceremony came from 15 different countries.
I love it.
It was awesome. I had a chance to go through that with my best friend growing up.
Really?
He was born and raised in Korea, and he moved here and became a U.S. citizen.
Love it.
It was awesome.
Well, that's the one whose mom always made you the kimchi. That's awesome.
Yucky mandus, yes, it was all very good, yeah.
It is time for a quick break. When Montana This Morning returns, we go under the sea with the cast and crew from Anderson School as they prepare to open The Little Mermaid tonight.
But first, here's Nora O'Donnell with a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're digging into the newly released James Comey memos about his interactions with President Trump. And video from the Southwest jet that experienced an engine explosion showed passengers not wearing the oxygen mask correctly. What you need to know in case of an emergency. We'll see you at 7.